Okay, hey, my name is Ali. I'm an actor. I live here in Manchester. At the moment, I'm filming for Coronation Street, which I'm really excited about. I've got 8 episodes of that coming up. And now I'd like to introduce Manda.
Hello, I'm Mandy. I used to do a lot more acting, and actually I'm doing a little bit of acting, but I'm mainly a writer now. And currently I am commissioned by LA Productions to write a first draft of Moving On, which is very exciting too.
Okay, so I met Mandy when I did my first ever acting job with Red Ladder Theatre Company. So that was based in Leeds. Long time ago. What was the date, Mandy?
1990 to 91 was when we first met. Yeah.
That was when we first met. And
That's
it was
right.
kind of amazing, wasn't it? Because the play was actually written by a blind woman, Kate O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Manda was in it, I was in it,
Yes.
Tracy, another deaf actor, was in it.
Yes.
John Verrant was involved in it. There were quite a lot of us, weren't there?
Well,
deaf and disabled people involved together in that. And of course, it was a national tour.
Yes.
And the play was called Breaking the Silence.
Yes.
And
And I didn't play a deaf person.
No, you didn't.
I actually didn't play a disabled person.
You weren't deaf, you weren't blind.
No.
You
No.
were blind.
I know, it's very strange. But they created a set that was tactile, so I could run around it as though I could see.
But all that was quite revolutionary then, wasn't it? It was like, wow. Yeah.
So it was great, and we got to know each other. We had a lovely time.
We did, and it was always really an interesting combination, that deaf and the blind. I mean, it was just made for comedy, really. We had lots of instances on tour, and it was a fantastic tour. But the political event of that tour, do you remember when Margaret Thatcher resigned?
She resigned. We were partying, didn't we?
We went partying. We did.
I think that was the night.
And that was probably the best performance of the whole tour because we were just Andy.
Not that we remember much of it.
No, so that was good. So that's where we met. And then you were involved with No Excuses, wasn't you?
Yeah, so my first experience of activism was I lost my sight quite late, well, 16, 17, and I went to, I went from a comprehensive school to a blind school, which was called Chorleywood. And at comprehensive school, I was told I wasn't clever enough to do A-levels, but I went to Chorleywood and I did A-levels, and they just expected you to go to university, and so I went and I did drama, and I actually met Mandy Colleran at university, but we weren't friends. We just met a couple of times. When I left university, which was in Liverpool, it wasn't Liverpool University, it was I was actually at the University of Lancaster at a campus in Liverpool called CF Mott Campus, and so was Mandy Colleran.
Yes.
I studied drama and contemporary religion, which is very interesting. And when I left there, my first job was with an arts centre called the Crawford Arts Centre. And I think they only gave me the job because the first event I went to, I got employed on Friday, and they said, your first day is tomorrow because we're hosting the first Disability Arts Conference. And I think they just wanted to say, we've got a disabled employee too. And that conference was run by Arts Integration Merseyside, which was John McGrath, who is currently the festival manager at the Manchester Festival, and Mandy Colleran. John had done an amazing thing because he'd been given this full-time job as a non-disabled man to run a disability organisation called Arts Integration Merseyside, and the first thing he did was say, disabled people should be running this, not me. So he job shared and offered his half job to a disabled artist, and Mandy Curran got the job. And then after about a year or two, John left and had built up enough funding for Arts Integration Merseyside to employ 2 disabled people, which was Natalie Markham and Mandy Curran.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's no excuses.
No excuses, yeah. So in those early days of Arts Integration Merseyside, which became North West Disability Arts Forum, the first thing they did, they were part of the SHAPE network, which was a national network of arts organisations that ran activities for disabled people and older people. And none of the staff and none of the management were disabled people. So in Merseyside, being quite radical, we decided we would leave the SHAPE network. But what we did was we used to get on buses and go to SHAPE meetings and stand up, say, why aren't we getting any representation on management? This is outrageous. And then we walk out. We did that a lot. And then the big event was, when was it? It was something like 1990 or something like that. We went to one, and it was coordinated by lots of disabled artists across the country. It was a national SHAPE meeting. We went to it, we disrupted it, we planned to disrupt it, and then we elected each other onto a steering group, and that became the National Disability Arts Forum. And we basically all agreed to sabotage the meeting and to elect each other onto the board that of a new organisation. And it was quite radical.
Yeah.
I can't remember the details.
But we need it, yeah.
But it was on the way back from that meeting, which I'll talk a bit more in detail about later on, that No Excuses was born.
Right.
On a train journey on the way back from that meeting. So that was really how I got involved in activism.
Okay.
Through No Excuses we did a lot more.
Because I think I got involved in that activism because of you, because of joining No Excuses, because of course I've been brought up as a deaf person in a deaf world, and at that time deaf people didn't consider themselves disabled.
Yeah.
So it was only when I met you
Yeah.
and we had all those discussions and everything about disability politics that I came out then as disabled. And then you invited me when Natalie left to join No Excuses, which I was like, did do. And then we just took off on the cabaret circuit then, didn't we, really?
And the activism circuit, so we often performed at big events. Alongside there'd be political speakers and Jack Ashley and I think Mike Oliver, Vic Finkelstein, all those would be speaking, and then there'd be a performance of a disability comedy or disability arts event, and we were alongside people like Barbara Lazicki and Johnny Crescendo,
and I think that was it. That yes, there was anger,
Jimmy McGrath,
but there was also such a lot of creativity.
Yes.
Remember the Pink Fingers, Tokens?
Tokens, I was going to say Tokens,
Just so much happening, and it was really exciting. You felt you were really on the edge of change happening.
And we were fighting because we had no legislation, we had no equal opportunities, we had no recognition in society. At the time, I was regularly asked to leave shops or theatres or buildings because I had a guide dog with me. Mandy, who was a wheelchair user, even if we could get into a building, she'd often be told she's a fire risk and she had to leave. You and me.
Yeah, and we could never get a taxi, could we?
No.
Because it always reliant on ramps, and when they do, I forgot my ramp. For you.
They had no legal obligation to allow us into places, and we were regularly banned from or asked to leave places. So we were fighting for equal opportunities because we weren't covered under the Equal Opportunities Commission. We weren't. That was women and people from different ethnic backgrounds, race equality and female equality. But disability was not covered under that. So
but
we had to
also,
fight.
so I'm going to add to that disability, we were still stuck back in that medical model, weren't we?
Very much, yes.
And that was all about charity and about the tragedy of being deaf, disabled, that we needed charity. And I think that's really interesting because like today, just was it last week, MP David Lammy, he was just talking about Red Nose Day and saying, actually it's terrible. She has a really patronising attitude and actually, and it made me think, that's the same as us really.
Yes.
The medical model, that again was like, oh, poor things.
Yes.
And we didn't want that.
Yes, and what was really exciting at the time was the Disability Programmes Unit that was run by disabled producers and writers and actors, and we became part of that. We were part of the team. That was quite radical, and yet that was dissolved in like 2000, 2001, along with all the other, they saw them as units that specifically championed minority issues. So I think the Asian network was shut at the same time and other similar networks. But the consequence is that today, any disability programming is designed and run by non-disabled people, and I think you can generally see that in things like the Undateables and things like that. It's still a non-disabled view on disability, isn't it? It's not as radical as it was, 20 years ago. So we went forward, and then we dropped back again.
And I think that's where, there's no excuses. The three of us have been thinking again about actually how far have we got and how different is it from when we first did our A to Z disability, because some of those sketches that we wrote, they're still, sadly, they're still there, aren't they?
Maybe we should talk about no excuses a bit more now.
Yeah.
So it started in 1989 on this train journey back from sabotaging the SHAPE Network national meeting. And Mandy, Colin and Natalie, Malcolm and I were all on a train on our way back to Liverpool with a few other people. And we were in those very old-fashioned train carriages where there's about do you remember there's about 6 people in the carriage? We sat there and then this very well-spoken lady came in and went, "Oh!" And she said to me, "Did you inherit your blindness?" And we just fell about laughing, and I don't think she knew what she said. Yes, I got it with the family jewels. It was passed down from great-grandfather. And
that was the first game.
And Mandy and Natalie, who are very, very funny, and I'm not normally, I am the observer. Anyway, they said, "Look, why is it only on the cabaret circuit? It's only men. We should do some comedy." And I went, "Great, lovely. When are we going to get together?" And they said, "Oh, we will. We can write our own stuff. We do our own sketch." So we talked about it on the train journey, and then they went back to work because they worked for Arts Integration Merseyside, and and I went and booked 2 theatres for 3 months' time. And then I told them, and Mandy said, "What?" I said, "Well, we said we'd do it. I've booked the Green Room in Manchester for 2 shows and the Unity in Liverpool." He said, "What?" So we better start making some work. So we started improvising sketches, and creating them. And then we did 3 shows. And then I thought, after all that experience, we need to go to Edinburgh. And we went to Edinburgh in I think it was 1990. Yeah, it was 1990. Yes, 1990. And we got called the most satirical satire on the Fringe. But it was by the Scotsman, which was a brilliant review. Yeah. And for 2 years after that, we had to pay off the debts we incurred. But we had a very funny experience in Edinburgh because we were in St John's Church, which was level access into the venue, but the changing rooms and the toilet were downstairs, which weren't accessible. So there was a very posh hotel, and it's still there now, opposite in Edinburgh. And every day we'd be campaigning with our No Excuses t-shirts on and sort of giving out leaflets. And then about 4 o'clock every day we went into this very posh hotel, all 3 of us would walk in, through to the ladies' toilets that were accessible. Big long mirrors, very posh, and velvet seats and everything. We'd change, we'd put our makeup on, and we'd walk out. And it was a posh hotel, and at the side were 2 guards sort of thing in kilts. And every day we expected them to stop us and say, "You can't come in here, you're not even buying a cup of tea." But they never stopped us. We just, every day we walked in and changed in the hotel toilets, then had to go and perform over the road. And it was a wonderful time. And it was soon after that you joined us, Ali, wasn't it?
Yeah, I came. You were at Leeds University. I was living in Leeds at that time,
yeah.
and I came to see you, and that was just before Natalie left.
Yes, yeah. And it was soon after you came that we started getting the television work from the Disability Programmes Unit.
That right, Elspeth had just done. She'd done something about charities.
Elspeth Morrison, yeah.
So we did that, and then she commissioned us to do the A to Z of disability.
Yeah, so we did a few sketches for the charity one, and I was pregnant, and we did a few sketches for that, and then we were commissioned for the A to Z, and you and I sat down for 2 weeks to write it. We were given 2 weeks to write it and 10 days to film it. 26 sketches.
Yeah.
Some were good, most were sort of okay, and some were absolutely terrible.
Or shocking. But they were a mixed bag.
But they were very successful, and they went out over the series of From the Edge, which was the magazine programme that the DPU put out. And then the following year we were commissioned to do a half-an-hour special for the Over the Edge series, which were half-an-hour dramas. And we did Whose Diary Is It?
And that was fantastic, wasn't it? Because that we involved so many of the deaf and disabled actors from Liverpool area, and that was joy.
We got Natalie back in that, and then we had Ailsa Fairley, a brilliant blind actress, and we got those. And then I think they did the best of our A to Zs as an alphabet soup the following year.
Soup, yes, yeah.
And then we did the Daphnes.
The Daphne, just going to say that. And that was just before the DDA, wasn't it?
Yes, because we did a Daphne sketch. So I wrote the Daphne sketches. You were Daphne, a non-disabled agony aunt.
Yes.
And Mandy Corran was your disabled presenter, co-presenter, who was never allowed to say anything.
Yeah, just that.
We felt that represented where disabled people were in the media. You often used to tie a balloon to her wheelchair, didn't you, as well? Pat her on the head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, truly patronising.
She was. It came to you very naturally.
And it was really funny because I always remember my mum saying, "Oh, I do like you with long hair."
Because you were a wig.
That was.
There was a sketch about the DDA which you were going, da-di-da-di-da-di-da.
Yeah, and then there it came.
Yeah, so we got the DDA, and life changed. And
it wasn't funny.
And I think, in a way, as political commentators, a lot of our fire and a lot of our anger and a lot of our comedy had been focused on the inequalities we experienced all the time. And when we got legality, when we got equal rights in theory at least, some I got a bit lost as to what we were fighting for anymore, because it was like we won that battle and I didn't quite know where to go as a writer. I don't know how you felt, Ali.
Yeah, but I think similarly, because I had that experience in the women's movement, because we were fighting, and then it was like, oh yeah, we've got women's equality officers, we've got women's committees, sorted. And then a bit of like, okay, so what do we do now? And in that time, it was just like, not quite what we had imagined.
Yeah, the focus of what to write about and who to have a go at. Because we were very careful as a comedy company. We were never going to get at non-disabled people for being non-disabled. That wasn't where the comedy was. For us, our targets were the gatekeepers, were the people that stopped us having equal. So it could be the media in general, or I know in our early days sketches, we used to always have a sketch point out that the Arts Council used to buy. At the time, there was the only rights for disabled people there were for employment was the green card, the 20% rule. If you employed more than 20 people, 3% of your workforce had to be disabled people. But you could buy your way out of that with £150, and the Arts Council did every year. And so we used to have a go at the Arts Council. Probably why we never got any funding. So we used to think about who are our targets. We were very clear with our comedy that we were having a go at the establishment, really. And when the establishment supposedly gave us our way, I got a bit lost as to who we could have a go at anymore. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. So, now.
Oh no, with them, there was a little bit before now.
Go on.
The Olympics, Paralympics.
Ah, yes.
Because I do remember at that time, because it was fantastic that, in those opening ceremonies, there were deaf and disabled people, there were deaf and disabled athletes. So, but then there seemed to be a whole big change after that, didn't there, about people's expectations on us as deaf and disabled people, that, what's the problem? Come on, everybody should be an athlete. That was the way forward for us. And I remember it was very difficult acting at that time. There was very few opportunities. So I think that was a very, that slipped us into a lay-by almost.
And I think also the other thing to say is that once the Disability Programmes Unit went, and that had been this wonderful organisation run by disabled producers and writers and actors, and they said, the BBC said, we're going to integrate disabled people into the BBC, but it didn't happen. We were never approached. Nothing came for us as disabled writers and actors. The only person I knew, I think Peter White became the disability correspondent for Radio 4, which was great for the BBC. He was a radio presenter who was already there. I think a few people might have got jobs, producer jobs and things. I think Ewan Marshall and maybe David Healy, But most of us were just dropped. And disability programming definitely took a hit. We certainly weren't producing the same sort of work, and I think that's still not recovered really. I think there's some.
No, I guess now there are more requests for more talk about representation.
Yes, it's starting to really shift in a different way now. Yes.
But that is very different, isn't
Yes.
it? Because that is what is being
Yes.
seen, but
Yes.
who's in the background, writing,
Yes.
consulting,
Yes.
producing.
And I think in the same way they are thinking about disabled representation for actors, they are looking for writers. So I have had some success recently and had a radio play produced on mainstream radio.
Yeah.
And
And that's giving you
and hopefully, well, I'm just still hoping. But those weren't opportunities for disabled people specifically. They were I think people are getting brave enough to let you pitch a story that has a disabled storyline, an alternative approach, as it were, to disability.
And I think that, you know that film, I think it talked about Pride, about the gay and lesbian movement and the minors. But I think that is something that happens for deaf and disabled people because nobody has seen our story. I mean, we're talking about it now for this exhibition, which is wonderful.
It is.
But actually, that story is really fascinating.
Yes.
And there were fantastic people in there and fantastic examples of creativity, of new, everything. And that's been kind of lost. So I suppose I'm hoping that very soon, Monday,
I have plenty of stories I am still pitching about the movement. There were so many stories.
Yes, and I think that to be told, our stories need
to be told.
Because it is fascinating.
Yes.
Sorry,
I think there's lots to be told, and people are very keen on character-led pieces. So you've got to find so it's a bit different from the days when we used to write straightforward sketches that were political and savvy and angry and funny. We have to. People are very keen on character-led drama. So you have to find a more subtle way to tell the story you want to tell from a more personal perspective. But I think I'm beginning to understand how we might do that now. That's what I'm beginning to understand. An alternative way of
and I do
getting in.
It's interesting that because no excuses, and I am thinking, what is next for us? Because I do, you know, we have had a time gap.
We've had a
between some of us have had children.
Yes.
But that's life, isn't it? But now, like looking back to that and looking at now, I think it'll be very interesting 20 years down the line about what is so different and what is the same, perhaps worse.
Yes, and what are the new targets, you know?
Yes.
Because we are starting to lose. So we have so-called human rights, but because of cost cutting, people are going, it's okay to cut that person's human rights. So the Independent Living Fund has gone. And people that need 24-hour care, although intrinsically they're supposed to have human rights of choice and freedom established within the European Declaration of Human Rights, because local authorities can't afford it, they're saying, well, if you need 24-hour care, you're going to have to come into a care home or a nursing home.
Yeah.
You haven't got the right to independence because we can't
And
afford
so
it.
we have gone right
So
back.
austerity has led to the reduction of rights for everyone, not just for disabled people. But I think because disabled people cost money, we are absolutely at the cutting edge. We are absolutely experiencing. And you as a deaf person, things like you can't get right. Citizens Advice Bureau doesn't employ interpreters anymore.
No, all those are being quote, access to work, being quote, everything. It's so much more difficult, more barriers. So if you've got any money, would you please send it in to me on Monday? Thank you very much.
We want to change the world and, So I think there are new targets. I think we plan later this year to get together and look at our original A to Zs and decide which ones are worth saving and redoing and which ones need rewriting, what are the new sketches, what are the new issues, and I sort of feel, yeah, it's time to start being angry and funny and sassy again. What do you think? Are you ready to be?
Yeah, no, I'm ready. I'm ready. More comedy.
More
That's what we
comedy.
need.
More
Yeah.
comedy. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that.